Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Midweek Chat with Jasmine. I am your host, Jasmine Bryant, the founder and creator of Fear No Video, where I help network marketers, coaches, and authors, speakers, anyone who needs to be visible in their business. Because what do I always say? When you're visible, you make money. The best kept secret is broke. So, today I am so excited because we are joined by Blaz Marolt. He is a leadership and career coach, and we're going to talk about managing your business without burnout. Because as a business owner, whether you're new to it or you've been in it for a little bit, you at some point may experience burnout if you don't, manage your mind, manage your time, manage all the things and your people. So, Blaj, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. I've been looking forward to this chat all week, and I'm
Same
pretty I'm
here.
pretty pumped about it. Before we get started, though, just tell everybody a little bit more about you and what you do. I mean, I just gave them like the nickel version, but
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah.
more.
What I pretty much said, like I'm a leadership coach and a career coach, and I pretty much help specifically new managers and people that want to come into the management world. I help them maximize their leadership potential and also their career. And I kind of do that with making sure that they have their personal brand really set up. So specifically on LinkedIn, because this is how you succeed.
Yeah.
And then we go through their leadership journey, where they are. Everybody's path is different, so it depends on where the person is at the moment, and then we just work through several steps how to do it, incorporating of course neuroscience as well, because
Okay.
that's one of the most important things for me, for us to understand our brain.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about that too. Like I
Yeah.
have I have a billion questions in my head right now.
Yeah.
But you mentioned LinkedIn, so I want to start
Yeah.
there
Mhm.
because for the longest time, LinkedIn. Now, for anyone who doesn't realize, LinkedIn is a social media platform, right? It's older than Facebook, if I remember correctly. It's about 20 something years old,
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah.
something
So
like
it
that.
is a social media platform, and it before it was all about connecting with people to find a job. Now it's someplace for you to be seen. So what I want what I want to ask you is
Mhm.
when 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 a new manager, a new leader, a new business owner, when they are setting up their LinkedIn profile or changing their LinkedIn profile, what's the first thing they want to do? Like what has to change?
Yeah. So as you probably know, like with LinkedIn, it's almost similar as a resume. It's like you
Mhm.
get like 6 to 7 seconds at the beginning to make a good impression. So the first thing is you have to have a great headshot, so profile pic.
Mhm.
A
Yeah.
banner is really good to have, and then a headline. So if we're looking at, let's say, our headshot, it's like if you are in, unless you're in an entertainment industry or something like that, right, it can be a little bit more funny, but usually you want
Mhm.
to have like a nice headshot without having a lot of other people around, because then it just gets confusing. You want to
Yeah.
have a banner that tells you, hey, this is what I do. So let's say
Mhm.
for me, I help new managers maximize their career and leadership potential, or something like that, so that people, as soon as they see you, they're going to know who you are. And
Mhm.
then on your headline, and you have here only 220 characters that you can actually use, you want to put your best career accomplishments or whatever you need, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be like, hey, I help people do this a little bit in more detail.
Mhm.
If you want to get promoted in the corporate world, you're going to say, hey, I did this and this and this, and these are all my accomplishments. Pretty
Yeah.
much these three are the ones that it's either you're gonna hook the person that will want to scroll down, or they're gonna say next.
Yeah. And that's really important. I'm glad that you brought up excuse me, I'm glad that you brought up the the characters number 1 cuz it's like X and all that. You don't
Yeah.
have a whole
Mhm.
page. You have to really hook them to keep people's attention. And the and then the 6 seconds, it's like you said, it's like the
Yeah.
resume. I'm in TV, and so we used to send out and people still do it, but we'd send out tapes, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
With your demo, basically, of your
Hmm.
reporting, your anchor, whatever it is, and it could be a little demoralizing to get your tape back if the news director sent their tape back. Send the tape back, and you see that they only watched the first 8 or 9 seconds because they wouldn't
Yeah.
rewind it; they would just send it back to you. And it's like,
Oh, wow.
so they decided not to hire me based on the first 8 seconds of this
Yeah.
video. And it's the same thing with LinkedIn. You know, people are going
Yeah.
to connect with
Exactly.
you based on what they see on the front.
Yep.
You know.
It's as simple as that, pretty much. And if you don't promote yourself correctly, they may see you on, the search page or stuff like that. But
Mhm.
if you don't show them who you are in those like 6 seconds, they're just gonna go and pick somebody else. And you may be
Yeah.
the best person for the job, best person for whatever, but they're just gonna go over you because somebody else has a better personal brand.
Yeah. And personal brand is key. If you guys have been watching
Yeah.
anytime, whatever I post, I talk about personal brand because no matter what you do, no matter who you work for, whether you're working for a corporation, you're network marketing and you are a distributor for a company, whether you have your own company, you are what people are buying. It doesn't matter. Like you're the product.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, you've got to put yourself out there. Is there anything besides having, um the bad like headshot with
Mhm.
you and all your friends and everything, is there anything else that people should stay away from when they're trying to brand themselves on LinkedIn specifically?
Yeah. So one of the big things that there is, like, you need to think about who your target audience is, right?
Hmm.
So, and get rid of the ego of what you want people to see you as, who you are, or like what are your biggest accomplishments, and actually target the audience that you want to actually get to, right? So let's say I was in operations most of my life,
Hmm.
and pretty much if I wanted to be a VP of operations, which would be like the next step if I was actually in the corporate world, I would be
Hmm.
putting all of my operational accomplishments. I wouldn't be putting, hey, I was, in the military, I did this and this, I survived like an ultra marathon. They don't care about that. That's a nice to have, like a nice
Yeah.
conversation starter. But for
Hmm.
me, it would be, hey, I led 8 countries in like with 100 million PNL uh, across 120, let's say, employees, or something like that, right?
Right.
So what the target person is going to be like, oh, I want to hear more about what Blash has to say, and I want to scroll down more to see what he's about and what his experiences are. So that's the thing that you need to do. And here at times our ego plays a lot in it, and especially our sentiment, because it's like, I really want people to know that I did this, or I played college football or something like that, because that's really important to me. Yes, it's important to you, but not to your target audience. And that's where people do tend to fail most of the time, is their ego gets better of them instead of like what they're doing with their business.
I love that. I love that. I mean, it's like with anything. If you're selling something, whether again it's yourself or a product or a service,
Yeah.
you have to know who you're talking to. Otherwise, you're talking to no one. You can't talk to
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly. No, unfortunately not. I would love to. And if somebody has a solution for that, please hit me up. But
Right? If we had the solution, we wouldn't have to have LinkedIn because we'd be
no, exactly.
multimillionaires. So no problems, no worries.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when we're so now we've targeted our audience. We know who we're talking to. We know, we're putting ourselves out there. We're branding ourselves. We're branding our our lives, our story to the people who need to hear it. Um,
Mhm.
Now what do we do? We're a new manager. What are some of our big challenges, whether we're leading our own company with employees or, VAs or whomever, or
Mhm.
we're in a corporate world as a manager with people under us.
Yeah. So if you don't know anything about being a manager, or you're like a first time manager or anything, like, I always tell people, do two things. First is have provide trust and safety for your team,
Okay.
and then build around this. So because trust is where people feel comfortable, they know that you're going to do everything for them, and so you build also a safe environment because of that. They're going to be willing to make mistakes. They're going to be willing to own up to them. They're not going to be, try and like put it under the rug.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when you're doing this, of course, you're starting to understand your position and everything else that goes around with your job, right? But providing a trustworthy and safe environment for your team is the key to pretty much your and your team's success. Because if you don't do this, if you don't do that, like your team is never gonna perform like the way it will. And it's up to you as a manager to build those two. It's not up to the team. So yeah.
No, that makes so much sense. I mean, and I think that's how so many new leaders burn out so fast
Yeah.
because they don't trust their team. Their team doesn't trust them to have their back. And
Yeah.
they're micromanaging
Yeah.
and taking on delegating. And then it's like, okay, so my 9 to 5 job is really like, 6 a.m. to midnight.
Yeah.
You
It is.
know?
Yeah. And then your brain just goes, I'm done. I can't do it anymore after a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, I
And
don't
I
want to do this
mean,
anymore.
yeah, exactly. And one thing like about trust that should be mantra and should be like almost an axiom is you give trust to your people on day one, but you have to earn that trust from them. So if you do that, yes, they're gonna screw up. Everybody screws up, right? But if you give them the trust that, hey, I trust you to do your job because you're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Most likely nobody's going to be there because they just were really bad at their job and they got promoted or put in that position. So if you trust them, they're going to do things their way because they're usually subject matter experts in that place. And you as a manager are now more of a generalist.
Yeah.
And you will not know all of the jobs of your team like in detail. They are going to know them. And if you trust them to do their jobs, they're going to bring that trust back to you and they're going to have your back always. And that then it just creates like such a great environment that people want to go and work with you and for you instead of like what you said, oh, it's 9, I'm going to have to look at Blaz again until 5 p.m. and then I'm gone like for the day, right?
Yeah.
And it just creates like such a hostile environment that you will fail pretty much if that doesn't happen.
Yeah. You're setting yourself up from the get-go to not be a
Yep.
success when you do that. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, micromanagers, I don't know why. I don't know why they do it.
And this is probably like a really good intro into neuroscience and the brain,
Yeah.
is because micromanagers, so some of them they're going to be micromanagers because they won't trust anybody, and that's almost you can help them. But when you have an individual contributor that, let's say, becomes a first-time manager, and let's forget about the companies telling you, hey, we're going to give you so much onboarding and all of that. That's always usually just in name. Usually they don't give it to you because they don't have the time.
Right.
What it does then, you become scared and afraid. And the way our brain then sees this, being scared, being under stress, it means it's under danger. It's in danger. And one of the critical things of our brain is it will always try to avoid danger and make sure that we're safe. And what it usually does, and this is where you come into fight, flight, or freeze response, it will use your defensive mechanisms that you've always known how to do. And what usually that means is you're comfortable in being an individual. You're doing your individual job. And so you're going to go into that part and you're just going to start micromanaging. Oh, I know how to do it. You don't, because I'm stressed. And it goes over and over and over again. And then you're in that spiral, right? Where you just said like you're working from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. And you're trying to do everybody else's job, and pretty much all of your team members have just quit on you because they're like, hey, if you know how to do better than I can, go ahead. That's on you. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And you spiral, and eventually you're going to burn out, or they're going to fire you, one or another. It usually doesn't end any other way.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen it time and time again with people on both sides, as you know, a manager
Yeah.
and an employee. It's just you take on too much. Like, well, it's easier if I do it than to watch you do it and
Yeah.
not do it the way I think you need to do it, or whatever the case may be. And then after a while, I'm in TV. I have seen at least two coworkers, men, really, but two coworkers who had heart attacks at work
Oh,
because they were managers, they were
yeah.
so stressed out and they were burnt out. They were exhausted. They were frustrated. They didn't trust anyone to do what they were hired to do, and they literally keeled over in front of us.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
luckily, I mean, they were both fine, but who wants to be wheeled out of work in a on a
Yeah.
gurney? It's not worth it.
No, it's not. And I was burnt out at one point, like a couple of years ago, and that thing is horrible because your brain doesn't work anymore, and
Yeah.
that's the worst of it. You know what you were able to do, like in the past, and you're trying to do the same thing, and when you're burnt out, your brain just like, nope, we're not doing this. I
Yeah.
need rest, bed rest, and all of that, and you can't even think. And for people that are managers or that like to use their brain, it's one of the worst, almost like I would say a death sentence, because you don't know if it's going to come back, because it's
Yeah.
such an uncertainty. Will I ever be what I was before? And it's such a bad like situation to be in, that I don't envy anybody that's in burnout, or I really hope that nobody will go into burnout ever again, because
Yeah.
it's horrible.
It really is. And I'm sorry you went through that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not fun.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? I mean, I know that that's a very hard conversation,
Yeah.
but for anyone
Oh,
who's
it is. Yeah.
who's like, I'm leading my company. I just,
Yeah.
what do I do? I can't. Like, what's like one thing that they can do to kind of get off of that path?
Yeah. So first, listen to your instinct. Usually, your gut instinct is going to tell you, "Hey, there's something going wrong," right? So either you're working too many hours, or you're just, you don't trust people, or people look at you in a different way. Just trust the gut instinct, and then take action on this.
Mm.
The other thing that I can tell you really quickly is, you need to start. Every one of us needs to start practicing how to have a healthy brain, because the brain is end all be all of us, and you can do this by using a really simple acronym. So 6 elemental P's, which is
Okay.
love. L is for love relationships. So you need to have positive relationships. Negative ones are actually going to negatively affect on you and your brain.
Oh, wow.
And then M, yeah, it's better to be alone than actually to be in a toxic relationship, because your brain capacity is going to start decreasing, and your prefrontal cortex is going to start shrinking as well if you're there too long. And then M
Yeah.
is movement. So move at least 30 minutes a day. Try, even if you can't, try and move. Then we have N. The first N is novelty. It's do something different, because your brain thrives in doing something completely different, right? Whether reading a book or doing something completely different, your brain's just going to be so happy.
Ooh,
The
okay.
other N is nature. So what you have in your background is plants, right? We
Mhm.
were born to be in nature. Like, this is who our bodies were. Like, we're still in the stone ages in our evolution, right? Being in front of the four walls is not good for us. So go and try and go into nature. Look at the green things, like go onto a stream, because that really calms you down,
Yeah.
right? And then O is use omega-3. So omega-3 is our building blocks of our brain. And if you don't do anything, just start eating a healthy diet of omega-3. Like, I have pills, omega-3 pills, and it
Mhm.
slowly enables your brain to recover, right? And then and if you can have a healthy diet. I don't have a healthy diet that much, but still trying, right? And then P is pauses, and that's probably the most important one. And the pauses are take breaks during the day, go on vacation. And I know people from the US are horrible at this.
They
You
really
guys don't.
are.
Yeah.
I don't
They
have that
don't do it.
problem.
You don't? Oh, that's
I don't
awesome.
have that problem.
Yeah. And
I've been sitting today trying to figure out where am I going next. Go
I
ahead.
just came from vacation. I just came from vacation like a couple of weeks ago,
Oh,
for
nice.
like a 2-week vacation. And this is where it's really important that you don't just take a day or two off, but you actually take a longer vacation so your brain can actually relax and you don't think about your work or stuff. And then the last pause is sleep. So we're horrible at that as well. I am as well. Usually you
Yeah.
need 7 to 9 hours so that your body actually and your brain dumps those amyloid B negative particles, in the brain particles, which inhibit your brain functions and actually are a cause of also Alzheimer's and dementia in the future if you don't do that. So those are the LMNOPs that if you start doing them, burnout is going to be a lot less likely than if you just waste your brain on negative things.
Yeah. No, that's a great bit of advice, and I love the system, and I feel a little shamed because I'm a 4 to 5 hour kind of a girl now because of my schedule.
Yeah.
I'm a champion sleeper when I get to do it. I'm like a 7, like 9 hours is really my
Yeah.
sweet spot. 7 I'm
Mhm.
okay with, but
Yeah.
this 4 hours a night.
Yeah. It's like I was in the military, and I told you before, like when I slept like 4 or 5 hours a day, and at times also 1 hour or even none for like 48 hours.
Yeah.
That destroys like your brain and everything else. And if you can like avoid that, really do. Like 7 hours, 8 hours, or 9 hours of sleep per day is gonna make the rest of your 15 to 17 hours so much more productive
Mhm.
that it's not worth it you pulling out an all-nighter for a job or something that in the end is not even going to matter, like, because who is going to remember you in 20 years in a job, in a corporate job? Nobody. But as we said,
No.
like your family, your kids, and your body is going to remember when you're going to be 70, 80, and you're not going to be able to move, or you're going to have dementia because you weren't listening to your body and your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to pause. We have
Yeah.
to pause. I love it. All right. So before I let you go, I know that you have a free gift for the audience. I'm gonna
Yes.
pop that link in here. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So it has to do with the areas of our brain that are used for leadership. So we
Okay.
have 4 areas of our leadership brain, and then what leadership styles do we have based on those types of brain? And it explains just a little bit on what are the traits of every personality, leadership personality, and then um, with every area of the brain, like what are its traits, and then how you can avoid some of the pitfalls of like when you're in on a flight, fight, or freeze mode, how
Mhm.
you can make sure that the other party actually calms down so that they can actually get away from it.
Okay.
And yeah, and there is a warning also for people that are the dominant types, or the people that just love to go over everybody. It also kind of tells you how to make sure that you try and avoid those people, or how to react to them, because those are legitimately one of the how to say it nicely, one of the most dangerous people
Yeah.
in your life, and they can actually
Mhm.
get you into burnout, stress,
Mm.
and they can destroy your career for like years if you're not careful in front of them. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like a very helpful download here. So I hope you guys go and check out Blaz's link. It's in the comments, and let us know what questions came up for you. And
Yeah.
hopefully you guys will do the LMNOPs and pause, and that's see, I'm stuck on that one because that's the one that I need the most.
Yeah.
That's the one that I need.
Yeah. Yep.
But I try to earn my pause, which isn't really pausing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm trying to do now that I'm a solo entrepreneur is I wake up when I wake up, specifically because, I'm in Europe and I work mostly with US clients. So that means that
Mhm.
usually my mornings are not filled up with meetings. So I
Yeah.
can actually sleep in if I want to. So this is one of the achievements that I'm most proud of, to be honest, is like actually making sure that I sleep more. Because I was in the same boat as you were pretty much. I was like, I can sleep only 4 or 5 hours and that's it. I don't need more.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. And it's funny because I need more, but I just can't
Yeah.
afford more.
Yeah.
But when I lived in Paris, I was the same. I wake up when I wanted to because 95% of my clients were here in the US.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was 6 hours ahead. So I,
Yeah.
get up at noon if I want to, because none of my
Exactly.
clients are awake at 6 a.m. ready to do
Exactly.
business. So it was great.
Yeah.
So, Blaz, thank you so much for being part of
Yeah.
the midweek chat. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys at home did too. Hope you learned some stuff. And check out Blaz's download so that you can get your leadership in check, get your business in check, and don't burn out, because we're living longer and longer these days, and you want to enjoy that long life, not you know not remember it as it happens. So yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I will see you
Thank
guys
you.
live here on Friday, and can't wait to see what you come up with.